Welcome back to Power in Words. If you're here, perhaps it is because you are searching for that quiet, enduring source of inspiration that helps you carry the weight of the day. This space is dedicated to strength, the quiet strength of understanding your own mind, the positive energy that hums beneath the surface of daily struggle, and the belief that the words we speak to ourselves can shape the life we live. We are all walking a path that is sometimes bright and often shadowed. And Power in Words is simply a land held out in the dark, a gentle reminder that you have never been as alone as you sometimes feel. Today we are going to talk about a concept that feels daunting, but is ultimately the most liberating truth of human existence: the power to completely recreate yourself. This isn't about pretending to be someone else or running away from your past. It is about the profound psychological and emotional work of forging a new identity, a process beautifully distilled in the philosophy of Robert Greene when he advises us to recreate yourself by forging a new identity. It is about realizing that the story you've been told about who you are and the story you have been telling yourself is not a life sentence. Think about the identity you currently hold. How much of it did you actually choose? Most of us move through life wearing garments woven by other people's expectations. We wear the labels our parents gave us, the roles assigned to us by our earliest teachers, the social standing projected onto us by our peers. We are the quiet one, the responsible one, the failure, the overachiever. These labels settle onto us like dust, and over time, we mistake the dust for our own skin. We begin to act in accordance with these inherited scripts. We shrink ourselves to fit the narrow definitions handed to us because it feels safer than the terrifying expanse of unknown potential. This is not a failure on your part. It is a fundamental aspect of human psychology. We are social creatures, wired to seek belonging, and often the price of early belonging is conformity to the identity our environment demands. We internalize the voices of our critics, our caregivers, our culture, and soon those external voices become our internal monologue. But then something shifts. Perhaps it's a sudden crisis, a job loss, the end of a deeply defining relationship, a moment of profound failure that strips away the scaffolding of your life. Or perhaps it isn't sudden at all. Maybe it is just a slow, creeping sensation of suffocation, a quiet, persistent whisper in the middle of the night that says, "This is not me. This is not my life." This feeling is terrifying. It is the feeling of the ground shifting beneath your feet. In psychology, we might look at this as an existential crisis, a moment where the structures of meaning we have relied upon collapse. But what if we looked at it differently? What if this collapse is not a destruction, but a clearing? What if the intense discomfort you feel is the pain of outgrowing the small container of your current identity? When you reach this point, the urge to cling tightly to what you know is immense. We would often rather endure familiar suffering than step into unfamiliar freedom. We fear that if we let go of who we have been, we will become nothing. We fear the judgment of those who know us as we are, worrying that if we change, we will be seen as fraudulent or arrogant. We experience what is commonly known as imposter syndrome, not just in our careers, but in our very existence. Who am I to declare myself an artist, an entrepreneur, a confident speaker, a person worthy of profound love, when all my life I have been told and believed that I am none of those things? This fear is real, and it is valid, but it is also a barrier you must actively decide to dismantle. Recreating yourself requires you to confront the stories that bind you. It requires you to look at your self-doubt not as an objective truth, but as a deeply ingrained habit of mind. You must sit with the uncomfortable reality that you have, in many ways, participated in your own limitation by agreeing to the terms of an identity you outgrew long ago. Echoing the profound psychology of Carl Jung, we must realize that we are not simply the sum of what has happened to us. We are the culmination of what we actively choose to become. That vital choice is the exact location of the forge where your new identity is created. Forging a new identity is not an act of magic. It is an act of deliberate, daily craftsmanship. It begins with the profound realization that your character is not fixed in stone. You are not a static entity. You are a continuous process. You have the right and the responsibility to curate your own mind and your own life. This means actively deciding what traits, values, and behaviors you want to embody, and then consciously practicing them until they become second nature. It is like learning a new language. At first, you stumble. You feel awkward and inauthentic. You translate every thought slowly, painfully aware of your mistakes. But with persistent effort, the new vocabulary becomes natural. The grammar of your new identity begins to structure your thoughts and actions without conscious effort. This process requires immense self-compassion. You will falter. You will have days where the old habits of mind, the old fears, and the old insecurities rush back in with alarming force. You will feel for a fleeting moment that the change was an illusion. In these moments, it is crucial not to judge yourself. Healing and growth are never linear. When you stumble, you must speak to yourself as you would to a dear friend who is learning to walk again. You must recognize the effort, validate the difficulty, and gently encourage yourself to take the next step. Part of forging this new identity involves altering your internal and external environment. While you may not always be able to physically leave a challenging situation, you can change how you engage with it. You cannot easily heal if you continuously absorb the toxic patterns of the environment that made you sick. This requires being ruthlessly honest about the influences you allow into your mind and establishing firm psychological boundaries with those who remain deeply invested in your old self. This doesn't necessarily mean cutting everyone out of your life abruptly, but it does mean being ruthlessly honest about the influences you allow into your mind. It means seeking out spaces, communities, and individuals who reflect the person you are becoming, not the person you were. It means curating the information you consume, the conversations you engage in, and the energy you absorb. It also means facing the fear of being misunderstood. When you start to change, people will react. Some will be confused, some will feel threatened. Their reaction is usually not about you, it is about their own relationship with change. Your growth forces them to confront their own stagnation. You must be willing to endure their discomfort without letting it derail your progress. You must learn to draw boundaries around your evolving self, protecting the fragile new growth from the harsh winds of old expectations. Consider the metaphor of the forge. A forge is a place of intense heat and pressure. The metal is heated until it is glowing and malleable, then struck with a hammer to shape it. The process of recreating yourself will feel like this. It will be intense. It will be uncomfortable. You will feel the heat of your own resistance and the heavy blows of setbacks and failures. But remember that the fire does not destroy the metal, it purifies it. The hammer does not break the metal, it shapes it. The adversity you face as you step into your new identity is not a sign that you are failing. It is the very process by which you are being forged into something stronger and more resilient. We often look at highly successful individuals and assume they were born with a fully formed, impenetrable identity. We assume they have always possessed the confidence, the vision, and the strength we see in them now. But this is rarely the truth. Most people who have achieved profound impact have undergone significant, often painful reinventions. They have faced the same doubts, the same fears of inadequacy, and the same terrifying void of the unknown that you are facing now. The difference is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act in spite of it. They recognized that their initial identity was a draft, and they took the pen to write the next chapter themselves. As you begin this work, start small. Do not try to dismantle your entire life in one day. Focus on small, deliberate actions that align with the person you want to be. If you want to be someone who is courageous, find one small way to practice courage today. Speak up in a meeting, have a difficult conversation, or try something you have been avoiding. If you want to be someone who is deeply focused, practice holding your attention on one task for a sustained period. These small actions are the hammer strikes that slowly shape the metal of your new identity. They build momentum, and more importantly, they build trust in yourself. They prove to your subconscious mind that you are capable of change. You will also need to reevaluate your relationship with failure. In your old identity, failure might have been proof of your inadequacy. It might have been a source of deep shame, a reason to hide and stop trying. In your new identity, you must forge a new understanding of failure. Failure is not a reflection of your worth. It is merely data. It is feedback. It tells you what works and what doesn't. Consider the relentless spirit often attributed to history's greatest inventors. They understood deeply that an unsuccessful attempt is never a definitive failure, but merely the necessary discovery of one more method that simply does not work. This is not just a clever reframing of reality. It represents a profound structural shift in identity. It is the identity of an investigator, an explorer, a learner, rather than someone who is constantly defending their ego against the threat of being wrong. When you fail, and you will, you must train yourself to ask, "What did I learn?" instead of, "Why am I so incapable?" This shift in perspective is for sustained growth. It takes the sting out of setbacks and transforms them into stepping stones. It allows you to remain resilient in the face of inevitable difficulties. Furthermore, forging a new identity requires a deep engagement with your own values. What actually matters to you? Not what your parents value, not what society values, but what you, in your quietest, most honest moments, hold to be true and important. Are you driven by a desire for connection, for creativity, for justice, for understanding? Identifying these core values provides the compass for your reinvention. When your actions align with your deeply held values, you experience a sense of integrity and wholeness that no external validation can provide. This integrity becomes the foundation of your new self. It is also important to acknowledge the grief that accompanies this process. Recreating yourself means letting go. It means saying goodbye to the comfort of the familiar, even if the familiar was painful. It means mourning the unfulfilled potential of the path you didn't take, and sometimes mourning the loss of relationships that cannot survive your growth. This grief is natural. Do not rush past it. Allow yourself to feel the sadness of endings, for only by truly acknowledging the end can you fully embrace the beginning. The journey of self-creation is the most difficult and the most rewarding work you will ever undertake. It is a lifelong process of refining, adjusting, and discovering. There is no final destination where you are perfectly formed and immune to change. Life will continue to challenge you, and you will continue to evolve. But the difference is that you will no longer be a passive victim of circumstance. You will be the conscious architect of your own character. You will learn to trust your own voice over the clamor of the crowd. You will develop a quiet, unshakable confidence that comes not from believing you are perfect, but from knowing you have the capacity to navigate whatever life throws at you. You will look in the mirror and see not the compilation of past traumas and external expectations, but a self that you have chosen, a self that you have forged in the fires of your own deliberate intention. This is the promise of Robert Greene's philosophy. It is not about superficial rebranding. It is about profound structural change. It is about claiming ownership of your narrative. It is about understanding that the clay of your life is still wet, and your hands are the ones that must shape it. The world may have written the first chapter of your life, but you have the power to write the rest. You have the power to decide who you will be when you wake up tomorrow. The work is hard, but you are capable of doing hard things. You have survived every difficult day you have ever faced. You have reserves of strength and resilience that you have not even begun to tap into. The very fact that you feel the desire for change is evidence of your capacity for it. Trust that desire. Let it guide you through the discomfort and the fear. Let it be the fire in your forge. The person you are capable of becoming is waiting for you to make the decision to begin. It is time to step into the heat, to embrace the pressure, and to do the difficult, beautiful work of self-creation. The only thing standing between you and the life you want is the story you keep telling yourself about why you can't have it. Change the story, and you change everything. Recreate yourself. Forge the identity that serves your highest potential. The world needs the authentic, fully realized version of you. Your life is a masterpiece waiting to be sculpted by your own hands. If this message resonated with you, if it offered a moment of clarity or a spark of courage, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and subscribe to Power in Words so we can continue walking this path of growth together.